and welcome to our Geek Girl book club, in which we are still celebrating our summer cool down month by reading Circe by Madeline Miller. I am Jannae, pronouns she, her. I am a Twitch content producer here with GeekGirlCon, and I have my hair in a high bun, I have glasses, and I'm wearing a teal shirt. And I am joined by Prime and Christina. So would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi. I'm Prime. Pronouns she, her. I'm also on the Twitch team. I am wearing like a gray. I have long red hair. I'm wearing an orange headset, and my background's like purplish. Yeah. Is that everything?
Yeah.
I know, right? I'm Christina, pronouns she or they. I am also Twitch team. I also have a purple background. We almost look like we're in the same room on the stream.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, you're right.
It does.
It's like we're just if I reach over, I feel like I'm gonna reach into your screen.
Do you have the same light? Does yours change colors, Christina, too?
Yeah, I do have a color changing one, but I actually specifically set like pink and blue alternating lights on it, so we just somehow managed to get the exact shade of purple by accident, which is wild.
That's awesome.
My volume is super low. How is that? Is that any better? Oh, I see. My mic got knocked a little bit further away from me too. That hopefully will help.
Speak again, Christina.
Hello, I am speaking. How's it going?
It sounds fine to me, but also you sounded fine earlier. So
yeah, I guess it's a Streamlabs side thing. Do the jump. Waiting. Okay. Yes. Okay. We're good. Cool.
Nice.
Yay! Much better.
Yeah. And, visual description. Transparent glasses, hair up in a ponytail, and a light-colored button-up shirt. So that's me.
Hooray!
Hooray! Awesome. Okay, so before we actually get into discussing the book, we'll do like a quick synopsis. I was trying very hard to summarize this beforehand, but I think a good synopsis is the Greek god Circe gets banned to this island where she hones her witchcraft skills and comes across a lot of familiar faces from Greek mythology. I don't know. Is there anything else to add?
No, I think
that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can get into more about like the different themes and stuff. So I think that was perfect.
Yeah. And then a quick trigger warning for anyone who is interested in reading the book that there is a couple of scenes with some sexual abuse. So just a heads up there. And then before we actually start discussing the book, I have a quick icebreaker question. So in the novel, there's like numerous reference to crafts, like including weaving, carpentry, metalworking. What craft, doesn't have to be in one of those three, would you like to master?
Okay.
Think about it. I have to think about this too.
I'll go because I kind of just am going for the first thing that like appealed to me right off the bat, which is weaving, because of the fact that weaving is one of the oldest traditions, and one of the ones that's like it's built into our language, it's built into our culture and our mythologies. Like I just find that really, really fascinating. So I think that'd be really cool to be a master of that, because that's like in a bunch of different cultures, weaving is like tied into like there's always women who are weavers who were part of the creation of the world or that are control the fates or whatever. So I think that's really, really cool.
That is very cool.
I was just thinking about tapestries and how cool those are too.
Right?
Yeah. And the funny thing is I have no actual weaving skills in real life, but
this kind of goes along with like the Greek theme, but I always thought it would be amazing to be a sculptor. So I guess if I was gonna pick a craft to master, it'd be sculpting. Like I just think the like statues of all the Greek gods and all the depictions of mythologies and stuff are just so fascinating. I could stare at them for hours.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
What would your medium be? Would you do like stone and marble, butter, ice?
Butter.
Yeah.
I like the idea of butter sculpting that you can eat it afterwards.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It is. Like in the
It is.
Midwest, they have butter sculptors.
No
Like,
way.
yeah, I think at least in the at the Minnesota State Fair, um, their like pageant, the winner is called the Butter Queen, and she gets herself like sculpted in butter.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I am very curious to know like what happens to the butter sculpture after, because it's pretty big.
Yeah, I'm guessing they eat it on stuff. I don't know.
I would hope so.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
a lot of butter to like not use.
There's like a Madame Tussauds, but it's just butter sculptures.
Yeah. It would have to be very cold in there too, so the butter doesn't melt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, you learn something new every day. I think I would pick I think I would pick like marble or like stone sculpting, but I guess that's carving.
I don't know. Or is carving wood?
Oh, that sounds more right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think it would still be sculpting. So you're good.
Okay,
You're solid
okay.
in there. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Oh.
To the jump, he would eat a butter statue of himself. Okay.
And it would be delicious.
It would take a while. I don't think I could really just take a fork and go into a butter sculpture.
Yeah.
No,
Maybe,
yeah. Like take little bits off and like put it on bread or something.
Yeah. Let's see. I think I would want to master sewing, so kind of similar to weaving. But I think that ability is very handy. You could fix your socks, fix the holes in your jeans, could make yourself a dress with pockets. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Good one.
Oh, Emerald says chocolate sculpting. That also sounds delicious.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But white chocolate or dark chocolate?
Multimedia.
There you go. Both. Why not both?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I think if I had to choose one, though, I'd usually gravitate towards dark because white is delicious, but I can only have so much of it before I'm like, bleh.
Yeah, it can get way too sweet. But dark, I agree. And Emerald also agrees. Dark
Nice.
faux show. Okay, so before reading this book, how familiar were you with the story of Circe and of like some of the characters that she meets, like Odysseus and Trigon and like Medea, etc.?
No, I was gonna say probably not like super. Okay, so I knew Iliad and Odyssey. I knew the story. I knew the general outline. I think I read some of it. I don't remember if I read all of it, but probably not. But yeah, I knew some of the general details, but not the whole story or all of the characters at all.
Yeah, same. I think I know the Odyssey and the Iliad as like individual stories rather than an entire narrative. Like the story of the Cyclops, I remember reading about that particular instance, but definitely not familiar with the entire journey or even all of the things that happened on or in that narrative. But I have done some, like in school, we studied Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the major characters I've seen and recognized before, but a lot of the like secondary characters, not so much. And Circe's I'd never heard of actually at all.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like I remember hearing or being familiar enough with the story of Odysseus and like the Odyssey that I was like, I know who these characters are, but I wasn't familiar with like the whole family tree and like how everyone's related. Um, and I vaguely remember the story of Circe, but told, I think she shows up in one of the Percy Jackson books. And I remember that, like, I think Percy and Annabelle get marooned on her island, and she has turned sailors into guinea pigs, and they have to escape.
Okay.
But yeah, the extent of my knowledge of Greek mythology comes from Percy Jackson. and whatever is in the game Hades and in the musical Hades Town. So it's very, very limited.
Yeah, I feel like that's where most of my familiarity is, just other popular media. I think that's where I get most of it.
Yep.
Yeah, but I felt like you didn't necessarily need to know the stories of those other characters or even Circe in order to like, enjoy the book.
Agreed. Yeah, I think the author did a good job of giving you enough information about the like secondary characters where everything made sense when you didn't necessarily have to know more about it. But it absolutely sparked that curiosity in me. And so every other character I'm like looking up on Wikipedia to be like, oh, tell me more about this person. Did that really happen? Like blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. So it did take me a little while to get through the book because I was like always looking up the story on the side. And I read the ebook version so you could like easily highlight the name of the character and like their Wikipedia page would come up. But yeah. So
nice.
I feel like I also got a lot of the characters confused with other characters. Like I think they mentioned Medea and I was like, oh yeah, that's the Greek goddess with all of the was it like the snake hair?
Medusa.
Like, yeah. And I was like, when does she turn people to stone?
Yeah, there's a lot of names that are very, very similar to one another that even in the context of the book, I found confusing. Like, wait, which one was that one? Perse and Perses and Perseus. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. But sorry. Go ahead, Christina.
Well, I had I just had multiple thoughts happen, but based on Emerald's question, which is, tell me more about Scylla, but I don't know if it's Scylla or Scylla. I don't know if Circe is Circe or like Circe or Kirk.
I honestly have like, no clue.
Like a hard K. I'm not sure how I should be pronouncing anything.
Say the name of her island in particular. I'm like Aya.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, just tell us more about who I am going to call Scylla. Did you read about her when you were looking around?
I can't remember.
Okay, I didn't gather any additional information beyond, I think, the book itself.
Yeah, I think her story is actually pretty much just what was in the book, if I remember correctly. Where like all we really know about her is because of she gets turned into a sea monster, and then you see her in the Odyssey later on, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what I'm seeing. Kind of like Wikipedia says the same thing. It's just kind of like, yep, that's the story. So it looks like there's more, but I'm not going to read the whole Wikipedia page right now. So
yeah, fair. I think I did actually end up reading it because now I think she was killed as one of Hercules' tasks. Does that sound right?
Wait, was that the Hydra?
Yeah, well, I mean, she kind of turned into like a Hydra kind of thing, right? Maybe it was a different thing, though.
Right.
I would believe you over me, so.
I don't know. That part was not in Hercules, the animated movie. Oh man. Okay. So, what do you think the point was of retelling Circe's story? And then did your opinion of Circe or other pronunciation and other characters of the story change after reading the novel?
Ooh. Like, I think that there was a lot of purpose to the retelling. Like, I think that, given that most of Greek mythology with women tends to be either they're the victim or they're the perpetrator, it was meant to, I think, give her multiple dimensions and have more going on than that, where she does some bad things and she does some good things and she does some ambiguous things and is a person. I think that was the idea of retelling it.
Yeah, I agree. I think she kind of touches on this in the book, actually, when she talks about how she heard her own story told back to her by a bard, and it painted her in this completely different light than the truth of the story. And I think that retelling this is kind of giving a voice to these characters who were most likely, let's be real, written by men, right? Way back in the day. And giving like women more of an actual like personality and presence and story in their own narratives, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely made her more of a dimensional character, and like I feel like since like none of us really heard of her before reading this story, it was kind of just giving a voice to someone who we would consider maybe a secondary character, and just like understanding her motivations for the things that she did. And I mean, even not knowing like a whole lot about like Odysseus beforehand, like he was always painted to be like this really brave hero in Greek mythology. You're like, wow, this guy. But then he's also kind of given a few more layers, and you're like, I don't know. Like there's a lot of trauma that he deals with, which understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was all I had to say about that.
Yeah, that was great. I loved too, like seeing a couple of the different heroes from Greek mythology kind of show up as being like not the greatest company, it turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even Athena, you think of being like so powerful and like for lack of a better word, godly. Um, but like she also turns out to be like pretty flawed and kind of with like not great motivations and kind of not
Yeah,
not
totally.
great,
right.
yeah, that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, no, I mean a lot of the gods were not great.
which I think is, I mean, and we'll probably get to this, but that's a big theme there. That is kind of I think one of those underlying messages there is like, godliness is not next to godliness. It is not so great as it's made out to be, and it makes them callous and cruel and detached from reality on some levels.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So we kind of touched on this, but would you agree with people calling this like a feminist retelling of Circe's story? If yes, why? If no, also why?
Demand answers.
Yeah. Give me your reasonings.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. When I read this, I didn't really feel like this was necessarily a feminist retelling. It just felt to me like a more realistic telling. And I guess you could sort of call that feminist because again, these stories are told through such a male lens that in order for it to be an actual true realistic thing, the women characters would be more full and robust and have their own motivations and stuff. So I don't know. Christina, what do you think? I'm kind of on the fence.
Okay. I mean, I think you set me up for a good point here too, because I was gonna say, like, I think it depends on the definition of feminism, and I think that honestly, I lean towards realistic is feminist in a lot of ways, because I think sometimes people will either villainize or idealize feminism based on this idea of like the women should be powerful and flawless, and they should be like heroic, and they should be like an idealized form. But the truth is that women and men and every other gender and every other kind of person are people, when you get down to it, who are affected by the roles that have been given to them and assigned to them by their culture and society. And so I think there are a few points that I would ding against it for feminism that and this is on like a second rereading. Like the first time I would have been like, yeah, hell yeah, all the way feminist. But there are a couple things that I would maybe think would ding it a couple points. But I feel like compared to a lot of what was out there or is even still out there in terms of general literature or popular literature, I feel like it does a pretty good job. So that's my thing.
Yeah, no, that was extremely well put, Christina.
Mhm.
Oh,
I agree with you. Yeah, I don't even know if I have much to add to that because you like said it so well. But yeah, I agree. Like it is definitely more realistic, and if your definition of feminism is realism, then yes, I would say that. And like giving this character dimensions and layers and I guess like development that's normally given to a male character is, then I would say like yes, I would say it's a feminist retelling. But yeah, and it sounds like Do the Jump and Emerald also agree with you, Christina.
Awesome. And actually, this might be a good point for me to make the comparison. I was going to say, I don't know how. I was telling you two about this before we went on stream, but I also read Ariadne, and I felt like that one was trying much harder to be feminist and yet fell much shorter, in that this was a character who was always pulled along by the forces by other people and by what men were doing all the time. It was, and this does happen to Circe too in the book. Like men are a central thing, which is one of the things that's like, well, okay. But in Ariadne, it was always like a reactive, passive, like, so I felt like holding the two against each other. I really felt it, where it was like, yeah, the character needs to have that. You need to feel that agency of the character, and you need to feel like they're a fully fleshed out person, not just 100% a victim all the time, dragged along and helpless at the whims of everything else that's happening, or 100% invincible. So yeah, I really felt like that was the line to draw in the sand for me.
And then Ariadne, that's the one that she was the character that led
Theseus
out of Person's Maze to dead, right?
Oh,
the labyrinth.
Yeah. Minos. It's like King Minos's and Pasiphae's. I think. Yeah. Their maze that they have Asterion, the Minotaur, in. And yeah, he's the one that she and I'm going off of the book and not necessarily the actual story from Greek myth, so I don't know where I'm getting my details mixed up, but I think that's the overlap there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That I think at least aligns to what I remember in Circe. But we were also talking about this earlier, how we both thought that she had something to do with spiders.
Yeah, because apparently we were both thinking of Arachne.
Someone else.
Yeah.
Yes. Another example of very similar names in Greek mythology.
I guess they just only had so many syllables back then to work with,
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Okay. And then let's see. Next question. Throughout history, witchcraft has often symbolized like feminine powers and is like maligned because of this. And like, how do you feel about the way that witchcraft was represented in this novel? And like, is it different than other representations of witchcraft that you've read? And if so, how?
I would definitely say that it was a broader representation in that, like, her brother is a witch too by this definition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so that's like, so witchcraft gets not, it isn't just women, but in this case, so there is that. And I definitely think that, like, it has some similarities, but I think, again, is because it is a more realistic portrayal of the character, and it is a more realistic portrayal of quote unquote witchcraft in that it is, like, not just like demonized entirely in the book, although by some it is, but yeah, it's not just like women are bad for doing things. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I was a
Yeah.
little surprised at how broad it was too. I think Circe's witchcraft was a little bit more what I kind of think of when I think of witchcraft, was just like herb work and kind of a touch with nature and even transformation. But some of the stuff that they kind of alluded to that her brother was doing seemed much more powerful, like creating dragons and such. And then even her ability to transform a mortal into a god, like, that's way more powerful than I would traditionally think of witchcraft as. But I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I also felt like it was just different in that it felt like a lot of the previous media that I've read, like, there's a lot of like natural kind of instinct to this, and like or to witchcraft, and like, yes, a lot of it is implied that it is genetic, since all of the siblings had this power, but it also went in very deeply into how much she had to learn about her power, and there was it was less I'm gonna say not natural, but it was less instinctive, I guess, or in this retelling. And it was like she really had to work at like honing her craft, because I think there was like a couple of times where she mentioned like she tried like all these different combinations, or she had like 10 years, or it took her 10 years to perfect like a potion or something, whereas like in other retellings you're like, well, we did the thing and then all of a sudden it works. And it was less in that vein.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And Emerald commented this too. She's plant love witchcraft is my vibe, and how it was hard work as well. And I agree with both of those statements, because I am also big on the plant love witchcraft. And like, I loved that she was like, yeah, doing this means I have to clean these herbs, and I have to prepare them, and I have to clean up my messes, and I have to let things dry. And I'm like, this year, rereading it, being a year, like, previously I look at plants and I was like, those are green, and that was pretty much it. Like, this year I learned a ton more about plants and about nature, or the last couple of years, I guess, but I've been learning way more, and I've been doing foraging, and I've been doing plant medicine, and I've been doing those kinds of things. And so I related more with that idea of her being like, okay, I can get a sense of what this plant does based on things I know about similar things, and I can, I know how much work it takes to like process this into something, but it's super cool when I'm done with it. And like, I could relate a little bit more with her experience of looking at like a plant and being like, her fingers, like, what did she say? It was something like her fingers itched to pluck, I don't remember if it was like pluck a flower or pluck something, because she could sense its power. And I'm like, yeah, relatable. Like, yeah, I want to go grab that plant, because I know that that's like a thing that makes a cool tea or something. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I also really liked the fact that she taught someone to be a witch. Well, what was her name? I'm trying to remember. It was Odysseus's wife.
Oh, Penelope.
Yeah, Penelope. Yeah. So like when Penelope and son Telegonus, one of them. Yeah. When they come to island name, Circe like teaches Penelope a lot of her knowledge about witchcraft, and like when by the end of the book, we learn that Penelope has kind of like also sort of like honed these powers, and I thought that was kind of interesting too, that you never really hear about learning witchcraft versus like having that natural ability, and like that's where your power comes from.
Emerald said, I felt like it made more made it more meaningful. Like she had a natural talent ability, but she still had to put in a lot of study and practice. And Do the Jump says, I really enjoyed the scene where she explores her sister's workshop and throws shade for how she's harvesting any plant with any blade at any time of day.
Yeah. It was interesting, all of their different takes on how they used their natural witchcraft ability and like how they honed it and stuff. Dragons versus, I guess, what was her sister? How did her sister use it? Was it just kind of like influence?
I think poisons mostly.
Oh, poisons. Okay.
Yeah, that was like her MO.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Let's see. Ooh. Circe struggles to find a place for herself as a woman in a man's world. And what parts of her experience resonate, do you think, with modern day challenges that women face?
I mean, I think it's certainly still the case that women and girls being raised have vastly different expectations. Even now, like a lot of times we're like, oh, we've advanced so far, but still, nonetheless, like emotional labor is definitely still a thing. Behaving yourself and sitting still and being more adult-like when you're a kid is still like an expectation that like boys will be told, like, and this isn't for everybody. Obviously, some people get different experiences, but a lot of women and girls will experience like more severe discipline, more, less free reign, just a tighter control over every aspect of their life than boys will experience. And Circe certainly had that, and the women, the other girls and women were all kind of being forced to play certain parts. And certainly theirs is a little more severe in some ways, but yeah, there are some commonalities still.
Yeah, I thought one too was that she was just constantly kind of overlooked and underestimated. And I think that's kind of a common theme that girls still face today, a lot of, particularly in the workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the role she played, I guess, like when the sailors would come to her island, and she would like play hostess. She would host them, she would feed them and stuff like that, and they like always expected like a man to be there with her and kind of like they called him like the head of, like a husband, like as the head of the household. And I think that's still kind of a role that is very common today, where there's just a lot of those traditional gender roles that we saw in the story and we're still seeing reflected in kind of today's society, where, and like in Helios's, her father's court, all the women were expected to be like very subservient to. I feel like that's also still kind of an expectation in today's world.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Only we could just turn them all to boars.
Yeah. Oh man. Let's see. Okay, kind of related. We see numerous powerful characters kind of abusing their positions throughout the story, and like our power. Do you think like power and abuse are necessarily connected? And like, what are there any models for power without cruelty in the novel? Oh. These are tough questions. Yeah.
I kind of felt like one of the themes is that with power comes kind of corruption. And I think in the tale of like Glaucus, Glaucus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's kind of one of the themes there is like, she takes this mortal, turns him into a god, and as soon as he becomes a god, he just turns into a massive jerk. Kills his dad, becomes like the court favorite, ignores Circe completely, just like changes entirely. And it sounds like anyone who kind of got to power. I was trying to think of an example in the book of somebody who was in a position of power who wasn't just awful. I think at the end of the book, we have high hopes for her son. But maybe you could say Prometheus was an example of of someone in a position of power who wasn't terrible, but then he was severely punished for not being awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? I guess it's just like, yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe he is the best example. Is there is some amount of like sacrifice that has to happen if you choose, if you choose to have power, but also choose to not be cruel and to be kind with that power.
Yeah, I mean, even Circe actually, once she starts to become more powerful, she kind of gets kind of callous and starts turning the sailors to boars, even if they don't, do anything against her. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be argued that in her case, it's coming less from the fact that she's super powerful and more from the fact that she has trauma. And so she is reacting in defense and reacting like based on like that rather than it being just like, I'm so powerful that I don't even connect with reality or whatever. But yeah, you're still right that like she isn't always a great example of a good use of power either or a kind use of power. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think at least in that story, I think that the power is definitely tied into cruelty. And I think, I mean, in real life, I suspect that it tends to be the case that the more people crave power and the more they pursue power for the sake of power, the more that tends to be aligned with a tendency towards cruelty or lack of caring towards others. I think that people who are able to have power and not be cruel tend to also be the kind of people who look for ways to distribute that power and look for ways to actually give away some of their own power by adding in checks and balances and that sort of thing. So it can happen. It exists. But yeah, it's just, depends on who's seeking the power.
Yeah. I think like even Odysseus, when like he was he a prince or was he a king?
A king,
anyway.
I think.
Yeah.
King. Okay. Yeah, he had a lot of power, but he was also he could be pretty cruel, both like emotionally and physically. But I'm trying to think of how his son ruled, because I know he didn't want that position after his father died, but I'm trying to remember if he was able to kind of rule less without kind of that callousness, but I can't remember how that ended because he does give it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember too. I think they don't tell us a ton about what happens before Odysseus returns, but it sounds like he did some pretty horrible things once Odysseus came back and kind of ordered him to do some stuff. Yeah. And then it sounds like once he was, set to rule, he kind of split. So I don't know if you...
Yeah. So maybe not a good example.
I don't remember too much about that part about him specifically since like this was my second reading. I didn't get to that part in the second reading, so I'm like, I don't remember how that part went, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't great either.
Yeah. And like we talked about like Athena too and how she had all that power and was a very, very very unforgiving, I would say.
Had a little bit of a connectivity thing there, just a blip for a second there, but I think we're okay now. Not sure what that was.
Oh.
Yeah. Something probably on my side, but hopefully we're all good. Stay connected, internet.
The stream looks okay. So.
Us.
Yeah. That's good. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. And so we talked about Circe's gift being transformation, but how do you think she herself like transforms from the beginning of the novel to the end? And why does she ultimately choose the path that she does? And somebody please remind me what path it was that she chose.
Are you talking about the end?
I think it's talking.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the question refers to the end. Yeah, the very, very end.
Gotcha.
Oh, hi, Moxie.
Hi, Moxie.
Hi, Moxie.
So the thing at the end, Jannae, I think is referring to the choice to become mortal. Is that correct?
That would be my guess too.
Okay.
So I guess that that's a pretty big transformation right there. Is becoming mortal. So yeah, I what was I need a refresher on the question phrasing exactly.
How does she transform from the beginning of the novel to the end?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that choice that she made, I guess, comes from the inner transformation of recognizing that there were things that were more important to her than power, probably. Now that we brought up power, I would say that that's probably a big part of it.
Yeah. I think she kind of goes through a couple different phases of transformation. I think at first she's kind of just super young and really naive and falls in love and gets her heart broken multiple times. Makes a mistake, ends up banished. I remember the first third of the book is all very depressing, and she's just like at the whims of her father and brother and all of that. And when she gets to the island, it's like a homecoming for her. And I think she talks about like feeling like, well, no wonder I've always have felt useless. I haven't had the right tools and opportunities to be in my element. So I think that was the first transformation, which I thought was really great. And then throughout the rest of the book, I think it's just her becoming more mature, more confident in her abilities, less of a victim and more of the protagonist, you could say.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's totally valid. That makes sense.
Oh, a kitty! Okay, sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah, he's back.
Yay!
He seems to visit me a little bit more often during streams than Hex does. And now his leg is in the headphones cord. Excellent. Excellent.
Don't get tangled. Don't get tangled. Yeah, I would say like at the very beginning, I was like frustrated with Circe because she was like so passive and she just kind of like took the cards that she was kind of dealt, and she was like, oh, this is my role, like I can't break out of it, like this is just the hand that I've been dealt, and like this is what I'm gonna have to, like this is my path, this is my destiny, and I have no control over this. And she's like very timid, very subservient, but then once she gets banished, it is like that's like that point where she takes more control and actually kind of becomes her own person and like understands what it is to be able to like make choices and also like live with the consequences of those choices, and like understanding like how her choices affect others. Yeah, and just kind of breaking out of that realm of her previous life. And yeah, I honestly forgot that she chose to be mortal. I thought the end was she chose to stay banished.
Oh no. Where she lives to this day.
Yeah.
Oh.
Moxie says, to me, it's the whole spending a lifetime of watching people she cared about and loved passing on while she remained, and what that even did to her psyche. Which that's fair. That makes sense. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because, like a lot of the people that she had cared about, like the creator of the maze, whose name I can't pronounce, like he had passed on.
Daedalus?
Yeah.
Daedalus, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And like Odysseus perishes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, pretty much the whole book is just people that she loves leaving her, right? Like, Glaucus, she loves, he ignores her. Her brother, she has this great relationship. It turns out he doesn't care. He leaves to go rule his own empire.
Yep.
Then there's, Odysseus, and even Hermes comes in and out. Like, it's just, she didn't really love him, but it's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
Daedalus too. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm glad at the end that, like, at least there's that tiny bit of, like, implication that she's not gonna have somebody abandon her again. At least there's that. So,
right.
Oh,
her son leaves her. Sorry, I'm just like, it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Oh no, yeah. That's way too many times. That's too many times.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, like, that was the one thing that I, upon second reading a couple years later, I was like, it being, like, the constant, stuff going on with the dudes in her life and those, playing such a huge, strong role. It's like, I would have liked to have seen more outside of those roles and relationships, but to be fair, like, that's, there's only so far she can go within the bounds of the Greek myths. She went pretty far as she could.
Yeah.
So I gotta give her credit for that.
Yeah.
And then how does her relationship with her father also kind of change or transform over the course of the book?
That's probably one of my favorite parts of the book. Every time that she, like, does something wrong and she's like, oh, this is it, my dad's gonna come and, punish me, or someone's gonna come and help me because I'm in trouble, and nobody comes, it breaks my heart every single time, right? Even if she's expecting it to be a visit that's gonna be like punishment or bad, at least someone would care enough to come and punish her, but nobody ever comes. And so at the very end, the final conversation that she has with her father, where she's just like not scared of him at all. She's basically telling him what's gonna happen. I'm gonna leave this island, and you better go talk to Zeus and make sure that, like, you have your stuff in a row, because nothing that you can say will stop me. Oh, and by the way, like, next time you do a count of your kids, keep me out of it. Peace. Like, this is like a mic drop moment. It was the first time in the book that I was just like, I felt really happy for her.
Yeah.
Or like really hopeful for her.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That was a redeeming moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because she just, it's like her relationship with her father at the beginning was very much where she's very timid. She like lives in fear of him, and then at the end of it, after she's gone through all of this development, she's like, you know what, like, I can be my own person. Like, I am no longer afraid of you or Zeus, and like it, like you don't matter to me, not I don't matter to you anymore. And I liked that she like flipped that script, that flips that narrative.
Yeah, she becomes way more focused on like her own experience rather than other people's experience of her, which is a big important change.
And that ties back to like what she said at the beginning. I think Prime, you said that too, where it's like people have told her story for her, and now this is her chance to actually tell her story from her perspective without like not through the lens of anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. But okay, last question.
Okay.
Do you think this was a tragic or a hopeful ending? Both? Did you like the ending? What were your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's less tragic than a lot of Greek myth endings,
Yeah.
and probably her own. I don't remember the original, but I assume. And yeah, I would say like it was a mix of both, though, because there's certainly so much tragedy that leads up to that moment of redemption for her. So yeah, that's where I would fall on it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's exactly what I wanted for her. Just because
Mhm.
I think an end, there's something beautiful in something ending as well as something persevering sometimes. And so I think she desired for it to end for a long time. And um, being able to do it in on her terms and with somebody who she loves and who loves her back.
Mm-hmm.
And did not leave her.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, it felt like a happy ending of a tragic tale, I guess. So kind of both.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it because after like all of the stuff that she went through, I wanted her to have like that happier ending or at least implied that she could have that happy ending. And I was pretty satisfied with the story. I was prepared for it to not be happy, just given, you know, Greek mythology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I was scared also. Because the
Yeah.
whole book is like pretty sad. And so I'm like, oh, if this is a sad ending too, I don't know if I can give this star good or this book a good review.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Christina, you said that you read her Madeline Miller's other book, The Song of Achilles, and you said
Yes.
that's even sadder. Does
Yeah. I think
would you
there's
say the ending is tragic or hopeful? I just want to know what I'm getting myself
I
into.
mean that one yeah, that is it's tragic, more leaning towards tragic, but I think
Okay.
that it's still beautiful. I don't know how to exactly
Okay.
put it. I don't know if anybody else has read that, but oh sorry, Emerald. Emerald says they're reading right now. She's reading right now, so whoops. But I would say it leans more tragic, but I still enjoyed it quite a lot. Okay,
And
she knows how that one ends. Okay, yeah, it does. I mean, it's based on the myth, and like, yeah, you can
Yeah.
get
I
spoilers
feel
by
like we've
reading the
passed
myth.
like this. Yeah, I feel like we've passed the statute of like limitations of
Right.
spoilers.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Ugh.
and that's so is that the story of Achilles and I can't I'm just pulling this from the game Hades. Is it Patroclus?
Uh,
Patrocles?
yeah, Patrocles?
I
Patrocles? I don't know.
something like that.
I
But
had it.
they
I used to have it.
at least in the video game, they're like a couple or like they're
Mhm.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, that
All
is
right.
exactly how it is in the book too. Yes, yes.
Okay.
And so that representation is really nice, and their relationship is really lovely to read. But yeah, it is one of those ones that it can only be so much more hopeful than what it was. But there's still she still manages to do some things that are like that do feel hopeful in a way, or that feel maybe hopeful isn't the right word, but that feel like they make it meaningful. Yeah, let's go with meaningful. They make it feel like you don't feel necessarily like, oh, this was very sad and I feel like I why did I read this horrible sad thing? Like, that's not the feeling I walked away with it away from it with. At least your mileage may
Yeah.
vary.
I think that takes some talent though to like take a story that you know has a tragic ending, but still inject it with like moments of happiness, joy, hopefulness. Oh man. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of similar to okay, again, one of my only references to Greek myths. Hades Town, the musical. At the very beginning, they tell you it's a sad song it's a tragedy, but they sing it in such an upbeat manner. You're like, yeah, like there's no way this is gonna this is not gonna end in a tragedy. And then like at the very end, you're like, to be fair, they did warn me.
Yeah, right. It's just
Yeah.
I was listening more to tone than content.
Yep. So I'm glad that this one, that Circe, had that bit of hopefulness at the end, or it was like kind of like the end of Inception, where you kind of like write your own ending and you can kind of believe what you want to believe.
Yeah.
And I believe it was hopeful.
Oh, totally, right? Like, I mean, the whole last chapter was like her hope for what the rest of her life is going to look like. And it was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was all of my questions.
Awesome.
Thanks
Those are great
for chatting
questions.
with me about. Yeah. Well, thank you, Internet, for helping me find these questions too.
Our fourth member of the team, the Internet.
Yes. Let's see. Before we go, let's see. Thursday, we are kicking off our month of STEAM in the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And we are playing Kerbal Space Program. I will be there. Taryn will be there. We'll get hyped for the Artemis launch on Saturday. Woohoo! Space.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday, Prime and Jen will be hosting a Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power fan panel. So if you're a fan, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Tolkien, come join us as we talk about the new series coming out on Thursday on Amazon Prime.
Ooh.
Yes.
So excited.
And then we also have GeekGirlCon is back in person for one day on November 5th. Passes are on sale on our website. So come check us out in person. Hang out with us.
Yay, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very excited. It's going to be my first con in person.
Yay!
Yeah.
Wait, first con ever, first GeekGirlCon?
First GeekGirlCon.
Okay, nice.
Yay.
That'll be awesome.
Yay!
It'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
All right,
Christina,
everybody. Yeah, we're raiding. We're gonna go visit. I'm thinking Kaylina is playing Cult of the Lamb, which seems to be like a cult building game. I was just Googling it really quick because I was like, what is that? I'm like, it actually sounds really interesting. It's like adorably dark game where you start your own cult. And I'm like, okay, sure.
It's super good. I've been playing it. It's like a mix. It works really well because it's actually like very similar to the game Hades, where it's kind of like a roguelike dungeon crawler kind of game, but it's also mixed with like demonic Animal Crossing, where you have cute, adorable cultist followers.
Okay.
It's the greatest.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's why
I'm excited to watch.
Made me want to go over there. So I'm like, we're gonna absolutely go visit them and see what they're up to.
Woo.
So yeah, we'll head over there, and this was fun.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye,
we'll see you on Thursday.
See you then.
Bye.
Off we go.
Nice.
Oh, yay!